In her end is the beginning of our story. Mary Queen of Scots' execution at Fotheringay Castle in Northamptonshire on the 8th of February 1587 was sanctioned by a death warrant bearing Elizabeth I's signature and followed Mary's conviction for plotting harm to the English Queen. Embroidered into the canopied cloth of state under which she had sat during various forms of house arrest in different English strongholds for nearly 2 decades, Mary's motto, En ma fin gît mon commencement, in my end is my beginning, had once offered hope that, after her forced deposition as Queen of Scotland in 1567, Mary might one day regain her Scottish throne, and she and her heirs might also realise their hereditary claim to the English crown. But once Elizabeth decided to put her fellow queen and close relative to death, Mary's motto became a martyr's text. In Catholic eyes, Mary Stuart should have reigned as rightful Queen of England since 1558. Refusing to recognise the dissolution of Henry VIII's marriage to Catherine of Aragon, Catholics regarded Elizabeth's birth in 1533 to Henry's second wife, Anne Boleyn, as illegitimate. Following Boleyn's execution in 1536 and the annulment of Boleyn's marriage to Henry, Elizabeth was also formally declared a bastard by her own father in the Succession Act passed that year. Another Succession Act, 1543, then restored Elizabeth to the English royal line, after her Protestant younger brother Edward and Catholic older sister Mary, but legally she remained a bastard when she succeeded her sister Mary Tudor as Queen of England in 1558. Thereafter, Elizabeth's long reign as England's Virgin Queen was endured by Catholics as the illegitimate tyranny of a Protestant heretic bastard that simultaneously deprived Henry VIII's legitimate great-niece Mary Stuart of her rightful English crown. 9 years younger than Elizabeth, Mary Stuart had acceded to the Scottish throne at only 6 days old, after the death of her father, James V, in December 1542. Although once identified as a potential bride for Elizabeth's half-brother, Edward VI, Mary had instead married the French Dauphin and briefly became Queen Consort of France between 1559 and 1560, before the death of her husband, Francis II, prompted her return to Scotland as the Catholic sovereign of a country undergoing a radical Protestant Reformation. After a second marriage to Henry Stuart, Lord Darnley, a distant cousin who, like Mary, also had hereditary claims to both the English and Scottish thrones, Mary was forcibly removed as Queen of Scotland in July 1567, and succeeded by her infant son, James VI, who was thereafter raised as a Protestant. The following year, Mary escaped from her detention in the island fortress of Lochleven Castle and sought refuge in England, where she was initially detained at Tutbury Castle in Staffordshire. In February 1569, Mary was visited at Tutbury by an Irish lawyer, Nicholas White, who noticed the motto, En ma fin gît mon commencement, embroidered on the Queen's canopied cloth of state, but admitted to Elizabeth's chief minister, Sir William Cecil, that it was a riddle he understands not. White further warned Cecil that very few should have access to or conference with this lady, given his own susceptibilities to what he described as a goodly personage with an alluring grace, a pretty Scottish speech, and a searching wit, clouded with mildness. Over the next 2 decades, Mary's prolonged presence on English soil magnetically attracted serial Catholic conspiracies, which claimed greater legitimacy after Pope Pius V's excommunication of Elizabeth in 1570. But Mary's eventual execution created a dangerous English precedent for Stuart regicide that sent shock waves across Catholic Europe and reverberated for decades thereafter. The international significance of Mary's death was confirmed by the insistence of both the Elizabethan regime and Mary's supporters that her execution must be explained, justified, and described to the world.